Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Work at Home Rockstar podcast. Excited for today's guest. She is a content writer and a strategist with Your RX Social. And what she does is she helps people to brand themselves and their businesses on social media. Super excited to be rocking out today with Manicia Reneus. Hey, you ready to rock?
Hi, yes, Tim. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So we always start off here in a good note. So tell me a story of success in your business that we can be inspired by.
A story of success is that I am fairly new in business, but I have had success like in corporate, just helping franchises, like working with franchise and working with new startups, and just seeing how passionate I was about that. That drove me to go into business for myself and just to help clients to build their brand on social media. So I would say that's a success, just off of the clients that I had in corporate and realizing like I truly have a passion for this. So let me start something of my own.
Okay, cool. Right on. So now on that journey though, was there any bad notes that things that just didn't go as planned that we can learn from?
Yeah, sometimes when you go into business, like you're very excited, you're very passionate, and you don't really look at sometimes everything. And I would say like something that I would probably prepare more is just learning more about like my target audience, learning about their problems. So that way like I could better be equipped. And I've learned that you always have to think about the target audience and think about what is it that they want, what is it that they need.
Yeah. Yeah, because when you start with your business, a lot of times you're not really sure about what your target audience is, but
Mhm.
also you want to get business. So you're open to
Yeah.
pretty much anything, right?
Yes,
So,
yes.
so would you suggest that like out of the gate you just try to find what your audience is, or do you sort of pick something and go straight for it?
Yeah, I think it's best to like know like what's your target audience. I know some people don't like the word niche, but I think it's best to go with that mindset so that way you have a target and you know like where you're going to. If you try to make everyone your target audience, then it's kind of hard because people don't know like okay, what is she good at? There's so many other people that do social media management. To kind of stick out, you kind of do have to have like a target audience. So that way people are like, oh, okay, I do that. I think she might be a right fit for where I want to go.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think a lot of people would probably say that, doesn't that mean I'm turning away business?
I mean, yeah, some people would look at it like that, but I would say like as long as people align with your goals, and for me, I've learned that I've had to like really sit down and think, okay, what is my core values? What does my business represent? I had to really think about that because I want the clients that align with my core values, and if they don't, then I don't want to, waste my time or waste their time knowing that it's not going to be a good fit for us. So it's just best to know like what does your business stand for? What are your core values? So that way you could attract the people that has that same mindset and it's easier to like to work together.
Yeah, yeah, and also, like, you get into, like, a groove, you get into a pattern when you know
Yeah.
exactly what you're trying to do, right? If you work with the
Yeah.
same types of people every time, well, then you understand their business and you understand like, there's no, "Well, let me figure this out. So, well, okay, here's what you" you know what I mean? You can kinda just jump right into it, right? Because you've done it. This is what you do, right?
Yeah, because like with a target audience, like you said, you're gonna start to notice a pattern. You're gonna start to notice, okay, they have similar problems. So it kind of puts you in a place where you can be an expert even within that field. So people now they trust you because you work with so many people within their field. They're like, oh, okay, I seen the work that she did with another realtor or another small businesses, and that's the same problem that I have. So it builds a lot more credibility when you work with a target audience and you have a specific niche.
Yeah, and it tends to be nowadays too that, a lot the internet has just made it so much easier to communicate with other people, and it
Yeah.
also is made it, a lot of businesses, a lot of people go out to the internet, like this podcast, right, to go find information about how to build their business, so you end up networking with people in similar businesses much easier now than you ever might have before, and then when
Mhm.
that happens, when there is somebody who is a service provider to your business, you're more
Mhm.
likely to just refer them to everybody else in your group, right?
Yeah.
And so, choosing a niche and saying, hey, these are the people that I deal with can help you in that way. It can actually get you more business because now once you kind of break in and do a good job for one person, there's now a whole bunch of other people that are also connected to that person that you can do work for as well, right?
Yeah, that's so true. Like, if I'm just putting this out there, if my target audience were lawyers, then if I do a great job for one lawyer, he has a whole network of lawyers like that he's known for. Maybe as soon as he got out of law school, he's been networking with them, connecting with them. So because like that lawyer trusts me, I'm able to go into their network and create more opportunities. And also, sometimes people don't want to have a niche because it's like, oh, I'm like you mentioned before, I'm kind of limiting my options. But even in one field, there's still a lot of different variety. Like for real estate, there's residential real estate, there's commercial property. So you still have options even when you go down into a niche, because then there's another niche. So yeah.
Yeah, and you can always change, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can decide that, oh, you know what, this is just not the right niche for me, and then move to a different one. I mean, it's just a matter of just choosing a direction to go in and trying to get a few clients in that same area, rather than just going, anybody, I'm open for business, anybody who wants to hire me, right? And plus, I mean, when you think about it, that sounds a lot better on a website. I specialize in this versus I can help anybody, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, you're so.
Works better for SEO too, because now you've got keywords to go on. So many
Mhm.
reasons, right? But
Yeah.
now let's talk a little bit about practice makes perfect or practice makes progress. Tell me a little bit
Mhm.
about how you get good at what you do.
For me, I always like with social media is always changing. So for me, like I have to go into the app, play with it. Yes, I do read articles and I do try to stay up to date with what's trending, what's going on. Especially with TikTok, I am exploring in that area of TikTok and just going in there and using the apps. I think that's the most important thing for me. I'm a very visual learner, so playing with things and just being hands on is always the best practice for me.
Cool. Okay. And so you mentioned TikTok, like, so is that your go-to social network for
Um, I would
business?
say I would say Instagram is like my go-to network. I am learning the power of LinkedIn. So I am learning like the algorithm on LinkedIn. But TikTok is very new, but I'm just trying to like make sure that I know like different aspect of social media and not just go into like Instagram, Facebook, although those are great, but always learn about what's coming, what's trending, because there could be another social media platform that comes tomorrow. And so for me, I just feel like it's just always good to learn new platforms and it just makes you better.
Yeah, it does make, yeah, because a lot of the platforms have similarities between them, and some of them have strategies that can be implemented into a different social network that maybe isn't being implemented by many other people. That might
Yeah.
get you a little bit of a leg up too. Now, what about like, does that relate at all to your target market? Like, do you
Uh,
focus on networks where they would be, I guess?
Yeah, I just focus on networks where their target audience would be, like real estate. I would say like Facebook, especially like Facebook groups, like going in there and networking myself. I guess that would be like more like how I network and how I try to build more awareness about my business. So Facebook, Instagram, those are platforms I feel like are really good for my target audience. TikTok, it is a younger crowd, but I try to think ahead. I know that even though a lot of Gen Z are on TikTok, you never know, like that generation might be the next generation that goes into like ownership. Like there might be get to a point where they're thinking about, okay, what do I want to do, like what's the next step. So like just looking at that and looking like at the trends when it comes to generations, and trying to be ahead in a sense.
Yeah, for sure. So now, okay, a lot of people are working from home now. No, and
Yeah.
maybe a lot more than before. I mean, before the lockdowns, I remember it was I had to convince people that you could actually run a real business from home. But now I think that we've all kind of, been through it, and now we know that, hey, lots of things can be done from home.
Yes.
But one of the hardest things I found when I was first getting started was really just getting a place in my house where I could work. And that's even harder if you've got a small apartment or you've got a small house where you don't necessarily have a room where you could just obviously have an office, right? But
Right.
what did you do? Like, how did you, set up your jam room or your home office?
Well, for me, I like to have like my room has to be like aesthetically pleasing to me. So for me, like sitting by a window, that helps a lot. So sunlight helps you with your energy, helps you with your mood. So I like to sit by sunlight. And if I get stuck, if I feel like, okay, I'm getting bored with this space, not being afraid to like get my laptop and go somewhere and be in an in open scenery and just like switching it up and just making sure that I'm organized, because I think sometimes working from home it could be very easy to be not organized.
Hmm. Hmm. Yep. Oh, I hear you. So how can you stay organized then?
For me, I feel like everything is digital now, so like certain apps, having like a to-do list helps me stay organized with tasks. Putting things in file, I love Google Drive because you can put things in different files and just be organized like in that way, because you can put different documents. You can have a folder for your important documents. For me, since I do work in a creative space, I like to have a brainstorm folder, and it's just like helps me come up with ideas, because sometimes if I keep the ideas in my head, I'll forget them. So just having a brain dump folder kind of helps me. Oh, I remember that idea. Okay, let's revisit that. How can we make that make that a reality? So just doing little things like that.
And for your brain dump folder, is that like an audio files, or is it, do you type them out? Like, you do them on your phone? Like, how do you do that?
Well, I'm a writer, so I love like to just type things out and just put it out. So I don't think about, sometimes as a writer, I don't try to edit it. I just put it out there. Like, I don't think about the grammar, like the punctuation, all that. It's just me putting my ideas out there, so that way when I come back at it, I can understand like, okay, yeah, that was a great idea, or maybe make it better. Because sometimes, let's be honest, sometimes when you first put an idea out there, it may not be the best ideas, so you may have to tweak it. Like, okay, how can I make this better? So it's just any ideas, and sometimes I'll put them into categories, like okay, real estate, or if it's the idea for my business that I want to implement later on down the line, then I'll write it down.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes it can lead you to another idea. Maybe that idea isn't actually a good idea, but when you read it later on, you're like, oh, but that reminds me of some, right? And you wouldn't have gotten there if you didn't reread that idea. So now
Yeah.
I do have a question, because I do brain dumps all the time. However, I don't go back and look at them again until months after. You have like a schedule? Like, do you have like a system in place where you go check them out, or?
I don't, it's just like sporadically. I don't like check it every week. Sometimes I'll forget about it. But then I'll go back to it and I'll remember like, okay, oh, that was a good idea. So it's just something that's, I don't try to plan it out. Because I feel like I know, like I just mentioned, organization, so this might be like a contradiction. But when it comes to brain dump, I try not to be as organized. I try to let myself be a little bit more free spirited. Um, because it is my ideas, and sometimes when you work in a creative space, you can be sensitive and feel attached to your ideas. So I try not to take them too seriously, so that way it could just flow. And once I do want to implement them, I'll probably put them in another folder, so that way it's a lot more organized.
Nice. Yeah, right on.
Hi, my name is Anik Malaf. I'm from Mastering Ascension, and I've been working with Tim Melanson and the Creative Crew Agency for a number of years now. Tim is my go-to guy for all things technology, and his team have helped me to really create the platform that I need that represents my brand, my message, and connects me directly to my ideal clients. What I particularly love about Tim is before he starts to dive into the technology, he always makes sure that he understands what your global view is, what your ultimate goals are. So then that way you're not wasting a lot of time back and forth switching around technology or platforms. He creates something from the get-go that is scalable, which is highly, highly beneficial for any business. What I've experienced from Tim and his team is they're highly responsive. They are a wealth of information, and they're going to offer you the tools that you need to really make the mark that you want to make in the world. So that's my recommendation for Tim. He's awesome. You're going to love every minute. You won't regret it.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes like for me, I know that I go back to those ideas when I'm like blocked, right? When there's something
Yeah.
that, because you don't necessarily need them if things are going great. It's just
Right.
a matter of like, oh, I'm kind of running out of ideas to put on my, blog or whatever it is that you're doing, and then you just go into that folder, and all of a sudden you see a bunch of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So this kind of like, I mean, this is really talking about the next topic, which is the instruments of choice, which is basically tools. So are there any other tools, or is this your main go-to tool?
I would say recently I have been using Chat GPT, especially like you just mentioned, when you have brain dumps. Sometimes like having GPT has been a lifesaver, when I'm thinking about, okay, I want to write about this. I want to talk about this. So just having that, and it's kind of like an assistant in a way, when I do have those brain dumps, because I can ask the system a question and it'll answer me. So yeah, so I've been loving Chat GPT lately.
Me too. And it's one of those things where you feel, in a way, I kind of feel like it's cheating, right? But on the other hand, I mean, like in my background, I have a degree in computer science. When I used to
Mhm.
do programming, I very rarely wrote something from scratch. You sort of
Mhm.
go and find someone who wrote that little piece of code, and you just use that and then build upon it. And
Mhm.
I'm using ChatGPT in a very similar way. I use it as like my baseline, right? It's like, hey, you got a blank page. I mean, I've always heard writers say that the blank page is the hardest part. So you just plug it into ChatGPT, and then now you don't have a blank page anymore. Now you can start
Yeah.
to move those things around, right? Is that how you
Yeah.
use it too?
Yeah. I use it in that way. I feel like I feel like a lot of people get intimidated by it, but I just look at it as like a assistant and for my base. Like certain things, it doesn't have that human quality. So I just use it as a base, and then I bring it to life by either my writing style, my personality. I That's how I bring it to life. I don't just take it verbatim. It's like, okay, I like this, but I want to add a personal touch to it.
Yeah, yeah, and you can try to get to do a personal touch. You can actually ask it for that. And
Hmm.
it's okay, but like I say, I agree with you, and I'm totally cool with that too. Because really, when I want to put it out there, eventually, I don't want it to be me, right? Like I don't want it to be ChatGPT and only ChatGPT, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but AI tools have come a long way, and there's so much you can do with them. And I find that for small businesses, especially, like it can be huge. I mean, you can't always afford, an assistant or whatever it is to help you with some of those things. So getting an AI tool to help you with just a few things here and there is super cool, right?
yeah, yeah, it is. And I'm really excited to see how it advances, and just to learn more about it. I'm really excited about the future and where it's going.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be, and this is just sort of my feel about it, because I know that there's a lot of people that are sort of saying that, oh, it's gonna take jobs away and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I feel like it's just like someone just invented a better wheelbarrow, right? I
Yeah,
mean, no one would say, well, I'm not using that. I'm gonna carry it by my own two hands. Right? It just doesn't make any sense, right? You use a tool to carry it because it's way easier than carrying every brick one at a time. And
yeah.
that's similar in this sense, right?
Hmm. No,
Now,
it's.
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, I was gonna say you're absolutely right. Like I look at it as like, before Photoshop, people were well, I don't know what they were doing, but they were drawing like with their hands, like with watercolors, acrylics, and stuff like that. But then Photoshop came, and people were able to create illustration digitally. I just look at it as Chat GPT as like, okay, it's another version of that. It's like you just have another tool. That's all it is.
Yeah. And I think because I mean, my space, my mission really is to help more people start businesses from home and be successful at their own future rather than relying completely on an employer. And
Mhm.
I mean, this kind of like falls into place because a lot of the limitations of a small business is you have to get to a certain level in order to start to hire other people and to start to grow that team. And
Mhm.
uh, it takes you some time to do that because you're wearing all these hats all at the same time.
Yeah.
You got to do it all. You got to do the accounting, you got to do the sales, you got to do the marketing, you got to do the work, right? And everything else that comes along with it. And for you to do all that and get to the point where you're hiring some people, it can take years.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't even necessarily even want to. Like, I mean, the whole point is that this is supposed to be your future. So maybe
Yeah.
you just want to be able to make ends meet, but you just don't want to be, working for somebody else. You want your own thing, right? Well,
Yeah.
I think that Chat GPT and all the AI tools is going to be the playing field leveler. Now all of a sudden you can have some employees that are AI tools that can help you with some of those other things to help you grow a little bit faster and then to help you pull off some of those monotonous tasks that really you should have been hiring an assistant to do. You just can't afford to do it. So now you've got an assistant to do some of those monotonous chores. So I think it's going to level the playing field. I think it's going to help a lot more people become self-employed and work for themselves. And that's my crystal ball. I don't know.
No, I definitely do agree with you. Like, it's definitely gonna help a lot more people become business owners, and have more time to do the things that actually matters to them.
Yeah, yeah. Which I think that's the big difference is that a lot of people when they think about like the people in the I guess being employed, when you think of someone who owns a business, you automatically just think of someone who owns a big business. You don't
Yes.
think of somebody who's just, oh no, I don't want to. That's not what I want. I want to spend more time with my family. I don't want to be working around the clock. I just want a more flexible work-life balance. And, you know, it- when it comes down to it, I think that's why a lot of people choose employment in the first place is because, they don't own the business. When they go home, they go home. But more and more businesses nowadays are not really that. You are taking your work home from you. And now, especially now that they know you can work from home.
Yeah.
So now I think that I'm hoping that we can create some awareness that no, 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 you don't have to, be a multi-billionaire working from your home with your business. You can just have a normal business at home where you're working regular hours and you have time to, flexible time where you can, attend your child's recital if you choose to in the day, work a little bit
Yeah.
later that night, all that stuff, that flexibility is available working from home for yourself, right?
Right. Yeah, that's so true. It's a whole different world that we're living in today, and a lot of times people just can't be afraid. We just have to like jump into it and learn about it, because if we just stay on the outside and we don't take the time to learn about it, then we're the ones that's going to be missing out on what we're capable of doing.
Yep. And a lot of people talk about risk, but to me, I don't buy it. I mean, when it comes down to it, you decide, okay, I'm going to start a business today. What happens
Mhm.
if that doesn't work? Go get a job. You just right, like and now you're no further back than you were before. You can just
Yeah.
try something, see if it works out. But nowadays, I mean, with lots of podcasts out there, lots of coaches like there's lots of places you can go to find help to help you build your business, and people are totally willing to help you, right?
Yes, yes. You have so much options today. Like, you don't necessarily have to work a 9 to 5. If you want to be even an independent contractor and work from home and just get clients, work with businesses and work with them as a contractor, you can. It's so many options today, and there's so much resources to get the help that you want.
You bet. So Manicia, it's time for your guest solo. So tell me what's exciting in your business right now.
Right now, I'm really just excited to just working in South Florida, getting to know South Florida businesses. I've been doing a lot of networking, and I'm really an introverted person, so getting out there in my community, it's been very rewarding because I'm actually getting a chance to learn about other people's story, learn about what people are passionate about. And I'm just really excited to learn more about what's going on with South Florida businesses and how can I help them create original content, because that's one of the things that I feel like we can work in the advertising industry is creating more original content. I do understand the power of stock photos and how they save time, but if you want to tell your brand story, I just feel like having original content is the way to go.
Right on. So you mentioned that you are a introvert. That's interesting because a lot of people think that to be a business owner and to go do sales and marketing, you have to be an extrovert. Tell me more about that.
Well, me being an introvert, it is uncomfortable to get outside of my comfort zone.
Mhm.
But some of the power of being an introvert is that I'm a good listener, and I pay attention to a lot of details. I'm very analytical, so that serves me well in business because I look at problems from another different angle than maybe the person may not be looking at. And just being aware, I think that's very important because when you're working with someone, you have to be aware of what is it that they're really going through. And because I'm introverted, I take the time out to listen and really understand what their problem is, so that way I can help them.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I think that there's a lot of business owners that are introverted. I've interviewed over probably I think coming up on 300 people on this show, and
Mhm.
most of them are introverted. And it's totally opposite to what we've been taught. We've been taught that no, 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 you got to be an extrovert to go to these, networking meetings and be all, flashy and stuff. But you can do all that stuff as an introvert, and actually, you can be more mindful about how you do it because you need to prepare a little bit more. You have to figure out who it is you're going to go talk to because you're not the type that's going to probably talk to everybody in the room. You're gonna choose the right person to talk to, right?
Yes, yes. And even like this past weekend, I went to a networking event and, I went by myself. And I know a lot of people sometimes it can get kind of intimidated to go out to networking events by yourself. But I learned that just be genuinely like interested in what other people do. Just ask questions like, oh, what do you do? How did you get started in this? And also being helpful. The event I went to was like a women's brunch. So just taking pictures, women, we love taking pictures. So taking pictures for them that helped them to like be interested in me, like, oh, thank you for taking my picture. Like, what do you do? So I was able to spark up conversation in that way.
Okay, cool. So I hijacked your solo.
It's okay.
We find out more about your business.
I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn, YouTube. You can message me. You can message me at yourrxsocial@gmail.com. We can set up a discovery call. That way, I could just find out more about you. And the discovery call is completely free. It's just for me to see what ways can I help you. What is something that you're struggling with when it comes to social media, and I'll just give you my tips. Whether you decide to work with me or not, you'll definitely get tips, and I'll definitely make sure that I point you in the right direction. So that way you can promote yourself and build your brand on social media.
So who would be the best people to get the most out of a call with you? Like who would be your niche market, I guess?
So I work with real estate professionals. If you're looking to use social media to build an audience for yourself, so that way you can get more potential leads from social media, I help you with that. If you're a small business owner and you're looking to get a certain target audience from social media, I help you with that. Like just creating a strategy so that way you know what type of content would be best for you, what type of content you should try out to gain more awareness with your target audience.
Awesome. And so what was do you have a website or anything like that?
Yes, we have a website, yourrxsocial.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for rocking out with me today. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
Cool. And to the listeners, make sure you subscribe, rate, and comment, and we'll see you next time on the Work at Home Rockstar podcast.